Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected by Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, Satan is not a pogo stick. The original OP is Soda 444, posted to r/wedding shaming. Originally posted February 12th, 2020. And content warning for entitlement stalking, assault, and misogyny. The Waffle House Wedding Weekend. Ages ago, I was dating a woman who had a large family that she generally kept away from me. I didn't have any idea what they were like until we traveled from the Northeast to Virginia for a wedding. The person getting married was a cousin of the woman I was dating. The plan was to drive down to Virginia on a Friday morning and drive back Sunday night. I was going to drive us down, but her father insisted that we drive with him. After all, he had a large, comfortable SUV, and we could relax in the back seat for the ride. Against my better judgment, I agreed, and we drove down with him. We had a couple of months' notice about this wedding. I had made it clear that I needed to be back by 9 a.m. that Monday because of work responsibilities that I could not offload on other people. I confirmed with the woman I was dating a couple of times a week for 2 months that she had communicated this to her father and he was all right with leaving Sunday night and not Monday night. The morning of the trip, we drove to her father's house. His big, comfortable SUV sat in the driveway while his hatchback commuter car sat idling in the street in front of his house. I bit my tongue as he and his son-in-law loaded everything into the hatchback and stared blankly as we were directed to get in the back. The car was so cramped that my feet were on a bag on the floor with my knees up at chest level. Still, I was polite. I said nothing. The woman I was dating and I exchanged quiet glances several times as we made it to the highway. About 10 miles into the trip, on a major highway near New York City, her father starts talking about our expected return on Monday night. I looked to the woman I was dating, who refused to look at me. Then I chimed in stating I had to be back for 9 a.m. Monday, that I had checked with her multiple times each week for 2 months to make sure she communicated it. Her father was surprised. He had no idea. She had been fibbing about talking to him about it. As we drove, I began considering my options. As I was asking to be let off at the next gas station where I could catch a cab and return home since my needs were not compatible with the plans this woman and her father had apparently agreed to, he reluctantly agreed to return Sunday night. On the way down to Virginia, her father and his son-in-law shared the driving. On the interstate highway, this involved driving at 45 miles an hour in the fast lane. They would ultimately somehow get lost, bringing us to Philadelphia, then DC, then somehow West Virginia before we ultimately arrived in whatever town in Eastern Virginia we were headed to. It was 7 a.m. and her father had arranged for everyone to go to Waffle Hut, a franchise I had heard of and seen but never visited before that day. 21 hours folded into the back of a 2-door hatchback with your knees pressed against your chest is a physically challenging thing to endure. We had stopped twice for gas, at which point we had spent a few minutes outside the car, but otherwise, we were crammed in there. I was surprised at how many people had shown up. Her family effectively filled this Waffle House. The woman I was dating and I sat at a small table with one of her cousins and the man she was dating. I had met this man once before in passing. Dave. I took one look at him that morning and realized he had been through a similar ordeal. He quietly told me that they had left on Thursday morning. His girlfriend's father, an uncle to the woman I was dating, drove them from Connecticut through Pennsylvania to Ohio to get to Eastern Virginia. They had spent Thursday night in a motel in Pittsburgh to get from Western Connecticut to Eastern Virginia. To put this into perspective, for my European listeners, this is like going from Paris to Berlin and ending up in Venice as you're heading there. The Waffle House was staffed by 2 women, a waitress and her daughter who worked the griddle. The waitress started at the far end of the restaurant taking orders and delivering food and slowly worked her way to our end. We walked into the Waffle House at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. Dave and I were the last 2 who got to place an order. At this point, we had been there about an hour. We ordered some sort of meal that had grits, toast, eggs, and coffee. We both asked to hold the grits, for eggs over easy, and for black coffee. As we waited to be fed, it became clear that the rest of the larger group was getting ready to leave. The group, let's say there were 30 people, which is probably a conservative estimate, slowly, over the course of maybe 15 minutes, began standing, stretching, getting their acts together. When our food was finally brought to us, we saw that the woman working the griddle had supplemented our meals with a dozen additional eggs over easy to make up for us asking for no grits. Dave and I were both shocked as a platter of eggs were placed on the table between us. We looked at one another somewhat stoically. We had sat there patiently waiting to order while everyone else was served. After 21 hours in the back of that car with nothing to eat aside from a granola bar, I looked at the crowd who were now all staring at me and realized that they were expecting us to stand up and leave, despite having just been served. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I began enjoying my breakfast. So did Dave. We took our time eating. We chatted about TV shows while we ate, asked for more coffee, and the two of us ate every last morsel of food. I have no idea how I ate a total of 8 eggs over easy, but I did. I even ate those hash browns that I normally don't touch. The group watching us continued to watch us for the most part. 1 or 2 cars of people left, but there were 4 cars worth of people who walked out with us. That weekend was truly bizarre. Everyone was staying at an aunt's house. This meant that some people pitched tents in the backyard. I had been under the impression that we would be staying at a hotel. Turns out, that wasn't true either. Dave and I were effectively ostracized. The large group of family members there would not speak more than a few words to us, with the exception of the aunt who owned the house and our girlfriends. Dave and I were given throw pillows and blankets and wound up having to sleep on the slate floor near the door because there was no other place. We slept for a few hours before everyone started getting up to go to the reception. Dave and I wore suits. Our girlfriends wore nice dresses. There was some issue with the cars, so we called a cab for the 4 of us to go to the reception. The wedding was at the reception hall and took all of maybe 10 minutes. The reception started immediately. About half the people there were dressed as if they were going shopping at a mall. Within 30 minutes, dozens of people were drunk, and the party descended into chaos. During this party, we watched as some of the aunts got so drunk that they stood on the balconies, sobbing uncontrollably. We watched some of the uncles and many of the male cousins strip down to undershirts or bare chests on the dance floor. We watched as the father of the woman I was dating was prancing around the dance floor, waving his shirt over his head with his pants drooping beneath his ass. We watched someone lean too far back in a chair and fall over backwards into a large mirror affixed to a wall, cracking it. And we watched as basically no one reacted to that. The wedding reception had decayed into a nightmare party. I looked over at the bride multiple times throughout the night. She sat at the head table alone with her new husband. They were stone cold sober. She watched with slackened jaw as her wedding reception fell into chaos. I observed from the other side of the room. We sat at the table for a couple of hours, and in that time, I saw nobody even approach the bride or groom. Eventually, the situation there became too much, and the 4 of us skipped out. We went to a nearby hotel for the night, with the reception slated to end around 10 p.m., and us leaving around 7 p.m. I felt bad for the bride and groom for however the situation would escalate after we left. Around 11:30 p.m., phones started ringing. The bride was calling our girlfriends looking for help. So we went back to the venue. The place was a mess. The party had winded down, and just about everyone there was in no condition to drive. The bride had asked us to help shuttle people to the aunt's house. My thought was, leave them where they are, seeing some people just flat out passed out, but we started shuttling people. Some people who could barely walk opted to drive themselves, and I saw the people who worked at the venue pick up the phone as they observed this to call in the drunk drivers. After spending a while helping the bride shuttle incapacitated family members home on her wedding night, I returned alone to my hotel room and went to sleep. Meeting up with Dave the following day, Sunday, he was talking about how he had to be at work the following day and how he didn't know how he was going to get back yet, since the driver he came down with had spent 20 minutes throwing up all over the inside of his own car the night before. My girlfriend called me around noon or so to report that everyone was already drinking again and things were getting out of hand at the aunt's house, and that we would not be driving back that night. Dave and I rented a car and drove home, leaving before 2 p.m. The trip back took maybe 6 hours. We did not get lost and wind up in D.C., Philadelphia, Ohio, or West Virginia. The trip home was smooth and uneventful. I spoke to that girlfriend upon her return. She told me about how the family hated Dave and I because we are selfish and only think about ourselves for not getting up without eating at the Waffle House and for needing to be back to work that Monday. Dave was accused of throwing up all over the inside of the uncle's car because Dave can't handle alcohol. Dave doesn't drink, though. It's just not his thing. But I guess it was important for the uncle to blame someone else for his own vomit. We were both also considered very rude for sleeping on the slate floor for 4 hours. It was suggested that we should have slept on the porch or driveway, although the aunt who owned the home argued against that. We were blamed for the damage to the floor at the venue and the broken mirror. Something had happened with the cake after we had left, and we were blamed for that too. I never spoke to that girlfriend again after that. The experience was so ridiculous and embarrassing that we agreed during that call to break up. She kept apologizing to me about everything. Dave and I kept in touch for a while. He too broke it off with his girlfriend after that weekend. He wound up meeting someone nice and getting married a year later. There's a lot more that happened with this family after these events, but this is already super long, so I'll save that for another time. Edit. Due to the requests, I posted the follow-up to this, but I'm missing from the new queue. I'm not sure how I screwed up posting it. The Red Wedding Letter. February 13th, 2020. The next day. In my last post, I alluded to there being more to the story. A number of people asked for it, so I'm taking some time today to provide that follow-up. Some crucial context to this and the previous story is that the woman I was dating, Sarah, her parents were divorced and her father remarried. Sarah lived with her mother, who is a corporate lawyer, because the housing market here is so crazy that a lot of people over the last 30 years have lived with parents well into adulthood because it's so difficult to afford a home and so difficult to find an apartment. I met both Lynn and Sarah through Tiger Woods. Not the real Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was one of the best golfers in the county. Just as some heads up, Lynn is Sarah's mother, and the quote-unquote Tiger Woods character is actually dating Lynn, just to add some further context that kind of gets pieced together later. I had met him on the course when he was kind enough to stop and give me some pointers with my swing. I was dealing with a bad back injury at the time, and he really helped me. We became good friends and still golf together regularly today, something like 20 years later. Sarah's mother, Lynn, had warned me about the family many times and had provided me with advice on how to deal with them. When she and Sarah's father were divorced, the family threw a party and pronounced Lynn dead. Sometime after we broke up, I changed jobs and quickly learned that Lynn was also employed there in a different group. Lynn and I always got along great. We got into the habit of having lunch together with two other people who we both knew who were also working there. After a few months, Lynn announced that she was engaged. We had a cake for her. She had been dating the same man for some time, and they had decided to tie the knot. Her wedding planning went fairly smoothly as far as I could tell as an outsider. Let's call Sarah's father King Kong because that's easier to type. Plus, he thought he was a king and was worshipped as one by his family. Fealty or death. King Kong and Lynn lived several villages away. Maybe about a 30-minute drive or so, depending on the traffic, and never crossed paths. Plus, with Lynn being dead, there really shouldn't be a reason why King Kong would go out of his way to cross Lynn's path since she was dead. People don't visit ceremonies often, but they do drive past them. And I suppose that's what happened here. King Kong found out about Lynn's impending nuptials. It was odd to me that the letter would arrive 3 or 4 days after she hosted a gathering for her people at her house. There were balloons tied to her mailbox, and I think everyone there were bridesmaids and female members of the family. I saw it because I picked Tiger Woods up to grab lunch, hit the driving range, and whatnot to get him away while they discussed wedding dress options. 3 or 4 days to me is about the amount of time it took for a letter to make it from King Kong's village to Lin's village, given one of those days was a Sunday. When I heard about the letter, I immediately imagined King Kong sitting parked in his car with binoculars spying on Lin that day. The letter arrived in a red envelope with no return address. More specifically, the red envelope was an ordinary white envelope that had been colored in red with a red highlighter or marker. The letter was written in black ink on a sheet of printer paper. The paper was heavily indented as if substantial force was used in writing it. The letter, which was unsigned, was basically one big long attack on Lin, calling her every name in the book, calling her a bad wife and a bad mother, and how dare she think about getting married when she already made her sacred vow. "You'll get what's coming to you," is how the letter ended. There was a lot of discussion about who the letter might have come from. King Kong was the obvious guess, but it could have plausibly come from anyone in that family. They were a family with substantial codependence and boundary problems, and they seemed to have the emotional development of children based on what I had been exposed to. The letter hung heavily on Tiger Woods' head, so much so that he stopped golfing, stopped going out on weekends when he could avoid it, to stay at home for fear that the nutjob family of Lin's ex would do something to their home. Then, the first foot fell. Sarah, who I had not seen or spoken to since the Virginia wedding, told her mother that she would not be going to the wedding. She cited the problems it was causing with her father and his family, and apparently, the situation there had decayed to the point where Sarah's stepmother and father were attempting to have Sarah declared incompetent to gain stronger control over her. This was about the time that Lin stopped talking about her wedding at work. Weeks passed and I had not heard from Tiger Woods. By the time the wedding came along, I was dating a woman who was a chef and who owned a venue that people would hire to host weddings, parties, and other such events. She came with me to this wedding. Lin and Tiger Woods were going to have a quick ceremony at the venue, which hosted their reception. We arrived on time and had missed everything, but I got all the gossip. King Kong showed up to the venue, close to 2 hours before Lin, who arrived extra early with her bridal party to get ready in the bridal suite. King Kong showed up drunk. The valet wasn't even on duty at that point. He had left his car running, the same hatchback we drove to Virginia, in the parking lot, and made such a show of stumbling up the steps into the reception hall that 2 of the people who worked there noticed and stopped him. Inside the lobby, he was shouting for Lin and only got louder when he saw people he somehow knew were in the wedding party. He started getting physical, which resulted in some men who worked there and a groomsman having to restrain him as best they could. King Kong was not a big man, though. He was a small man who was very wiry, and he managed to put up quite a fight. But they managed to get him out the door and into the parking lot, where he was soon arrested. King Kong had written the letter. According to what I heard, he had admitted to the police that he would sit in his car down the road a bit and watch Lin's home, and he did so to protect my daughter, even though she no longer lived there, or anywhere near there. I like to think about King Kong's wife going to the police station to bail him out because he was violent, drunk, and uninvited at his ex-wife's wedding, who he had been essentially stalking. I know what you're all thinking, what happened to his car? Someone had said that King Kong had left it running in the parking lot with the door open, and when the police took him away, they did him the solid of locking the doors and closing them so no one would get into it and steal anything. They did not say they turned the car off. Nor tow it, apparently. The only other wedding story I have about this family involved a case of mistaken wedding identity that happened a year or so after this, and it's the second-hand story, but if you're interested in it, I can plan to tell it in the near future. The story is perhaps more relevant to the sub. I have to wonder if the story and my last one are really more about crazy people like a wedding as the backdrop. Apologies to the mods if I should be posting this stuff somewhere else. I definitely might be adding wedding shaming to my list of subreddits to take a look at. That could be a fun one-off. Overall, though, at least it's not AI, and at least it's not boring. As it went on in the second update, I started to become less and less convinced of its authenticity. It could also just be that OP is inexperienced in telling a coherent story, and when trying to recall it years later, a few things fell through the cracks, which is very much plausible. I will say though, that family, because I am very inclined to believe the Waffle House story is 100% real, because I do know white trash that is like that, and am also related to them. And I've seen this kind of partying firsthand from them, and yeah. This also includes the selfishness where if you don't entertain their selfish desires, you're the selfish one. I honestly feel horrendous for the bride, and I do wonder if she tried to get the marriage nullified that night. I wouldn't blame her if that was on her agenda. And also, on a side note, while there's not an insane amount of overlap, for those of you who enjoy the more chaotic style of Oz content, that's, more rapid fire and loud, the main channel has an upload now. Sorry it took so long for those of you who are waiting so patiently. Don't forget the Oz Cup is live on Gamersubs until March 9th, and don't forget to use code Oz at checkout. Every purchase made using code Oz supports the channel directly. This post was collected by Big O Nerd, who has yet to get themselves a tagline. You should fix that, buddy. The original OP is Random Redhead 10, posted January 24th, 2025. My sister, 32 female, called CPS on my husband and I. Now that the case has been closed, I have no idea how to confront her. My sister and I have always been close. Every year she spends Christmas Eve sleeping over with her fiancé, male 31, and helps us get toys from Santa built and set up for Christmas morning. We call ourselves Santa's helpers and have a lot of fun with it. This year, she spent the night and saw my husband and father disciplining our son, male 13. Our son is now a teenager and likes to ignore us when we ask him to do something. Pretend he doesn't know how to do something incredibly simple, slam doors, general teenager sassy behavior. His teachers at school notice it as well, so it's something we're working on at home. Our discipline style is somewhere between tough love and talk it out. What exactly do you mean by tough love? Every time a conflict at home arises, my son does the argue/flip out, then run upstairs and slam the door thing. My husband will wait 10 minutes and go upstairs and have a heartfelt, meaningful dialogue with him. This happened on Christmas Eve. If you have little ones listening for some reason, please cover their ears. Alright, there we go. He told his 3-year-old sister Santa wasn't real, and we both immediately told him that wasn't okay, and he started arguing with us, because obviously he is real. It led to the same typical back and forth. The difference was my sister and her fiancé were present. Neither of them said anything and went about our usual Christmas Eve routine. Everything seemed fine. Our son apologized and went to bed. Upon his return to school after break, a CPS worker showed up and pulled him out of class to interview him about how his parents treat him. He told them he loved his parents and that things at home were fine. He expressed that when we discipline him, we sometimes ground him and we take away his electronics for a week. And sometimes he'll argue with us, but he knows that when we discipline, that we do it because we love him and we want him to grow and learn. Okay, cool. That kind of tough love. I'm on board with that. Now, a little detail about the month of December and its difficulties. I have a seizure disorder. I have not had a seizure in 10 years, and in the month of December, out of nowhere, I had 3 back-to-back-to-back. I was sitting at my neurologist's office preparing for an EEG sleep study when I get a call that goes to voicemail from that same CPS worker saying the next day she would be coming to our house to interview us and our 3-year-old. I immediately shared the number and voicemail to my husband and told him to call her back immediately because I couldn't. So, the very next day, after an exhausting round of seizure tests, she came over. When she arrived the next day, we got a better picture of the accusations she made against us. 1. She claimed my alcoholic... little out of order there. She claimed my husband was an alcoholic with anger issues. 2. She claimed we were starving our 3 children and had no food in the house. To the first accusation, it was Christmas Eve. All of our family was there drinking eggnog or wine. No one in the house got sloshed except my sister, who drank an entire 18-pack of beer to herself that night. That requires practice. We do not have a drinking problem. It was a holiday with family and a delicious meal I spent all day preparing. My husband does not have anger problems whatsoever. We were upset at what our son said to his sister, but not in any way that would justify saying anyone in this house has anger issues. My dad and my husband pulled our son aside to talk to him about it. I really don't understand this one. To answer accusation 2, as the CPS worker toured our house, we showed her our pantry, fridge, and freezer. She literally laughed out loud and said, there's enough food here to feed everyone in this house for 3 months. We are absolutely not starving our kids at all, and that was obvious right away. When the CPS worker was packing up to leave, she stated, "I'm grateful to be handling a case in a functional home with happy, healthy kids. Usually it's quite the opposite." Today, she called us back and is closing the case by the end of the day. She does not believe any further action is needed, and our risk score is low. Upon talking to my parents and brother, I'll agree this was for sure my sister based on talking with her themselves, though she has not outright admitted it. I'll agree this was the last thing my family needed while dealing with my health issues and restructuring our lives and schedules around the reality that I can't drive for 6 months, so I can't work. My husband and I see this as a major betrayal. I'm still reeling from the reality that a family member I've always been so close with and trusted would make such an impulsive, dishonest, and quite frankly cruel decision like this. I have spent weeks trying to figure out how to confront her, as she has not fully admitted to doing this, but has heavily implied it to everyone who's spoken to her. She went from being overly communicative the day of the interview, demanding I call her and tell her how it went, and in general, blowing up my phone, to being silent and not speaking to me for weeks after I told her it went fine. I believe she knows I assume she did this. I want to have a conversation with her, but I do not know how to do it. I feel betrayed by my sister and incredibly hurt. I do not want to react emotionally, but I do want her to know this was wrong. Comments. Groundbreaking past 31. I don't know how or if I would confront her. Where are your parents in this? Why aren't they giving her hell? But for sure, she would never be welcomed into my home again, and her relationship with my children would be completely over. And I mean completely. No calls, no texts, no visits, no interactions, no visiting with her at her parents, nothing. You don't threaten my family and then have a relationship with them. I would be done. Personally, I think you should be done because you need to know that you can never, ever trust her again, ever. Opie responds, my parents aren't giving her hell yet because they've been trying to information gather from her while she's gone silent on me. I definitely plan to go no contact for a while. The sad part is, she's been progressively unstable and getting worse over the years. I feel like I've lost my sister. This feels like a betrayal I'm not sure she can come back from without a lot of work on her end, and not anytime soon. I want to confront her and let her know that I know this was her, that she put my kids at serious risk, making baseless accusations, and she will not be welcome at my son's birthday next month, and that she will not be welcome here for a long time. User beautiful creature 86 comments. How did you find out it was her? CPS isn't allowed to tell you who reported you. I'm not judging, and I think you need to go no contact immediately, and don't even stress yourself about confrontation. Don't work yourself up over trash. I'm just very curious how you know it was her. OP responds, my parents and my brother each individually got a hold of her just to talk about the situation and see what she would say. And the way that she was responding made it sound like she felt justified in the actions of whoever must have done this. That the wording of the complaint fits into what seems like a projection of her own behavior that night, mixed in with some baseless accusations and lies. She's also super granola health food nut, so it's super granola health food nut who drinks 18 beers a night. Oh, that's a front. Is it like an organic IPA or something? It's kind of a crazy bit of whiplash there. She's also super granola health food nut, so it's highly possible that she said we weren't feeding our kids because when you look in our pantry, we have an abundance of food that are all organic, nothing processed, no chips, no stacks. They should be eating salads and vegan food. Mentally came out as we're not feeding our kids a diet she thinks they should be eating. I remember her boyfriend actually saying, wow, you guys have a lot of spaghetti sauce. Do you ever worry about the GMOs? I make dinner and feed my children every single night. We never order out. They eat a home-cooked meal every night. I definitely buy jars of pasta sauce sometimes to make it easier when I make spaghetti or a big ziti. I hope that's how that's said. I've only ever read that, never actually had to pronounce it out loud. And we have canned goods like beans and soups and all kinds of things like rice and pasta noodles. They would scoff at based on their diet. User Mashcamp comments, do you know for certain it wasn't her fiance who called? I'd sit both of them down and talk because it was surely one of them. Or your son did it in a fit of teenage angst and regretted it later and thought just telling them at school that it was all good would reverse it. Best make sure before any actual accusations. OP responds, her fiance is a social worker. It is possible she used his position to do something like this, but her fiance was busy flirting with my youngest sister, so quite frankly, I have no idea what's going on there between them. My son 100% did not do this. He came home and immediately told my husband some lady came to talk to him at school, and it genuinely confused him. User Fluid Candidate 4839 comments, does your sister have children? Is she jealous of your life? I don't know, maybe I'm off base, but I can't help but to wonder if she was hoping CPS would take the kids and place them in her home. OP responds, my sister can't have children, actually. She was always the sibling that wanted the big family with tons of kids, which seems a little like a rage-induced motive to me, and definitely like family would get first dibs on the kids before foster care. User Evil Sloth of Doom comments, this is a major betrayal. Is she projecting the alcohol usage onto you guys? Is she jealous of your life? Has she done anything like this in the past? Has someone else been talking badly about you and gotten in her ear? If you do have a conversation with her face-to-face and it's legal, record it. If it's not legal, then keep it to SMS or email, something with a paper trail. Either way, when someone makes false accusations about you and your immediate family, you need to cut them off. I say this because if they've done it once, they could do it again in a worse way. The best way to cover your ass is to make sure you aren't around them. It lessens their credibility, especially with the closed CPS case. This woman is no longer your sister. She's a threat to your family. You have to put your husband's, and your children's health and well-being above her issues. OP responds, she is a tad bit jealous of our lives. We have 3 children, and due to her fiancé being sterile, she cannot have kids unless through IVF. She always wanted lots of kids. My mother also just recovered from breast cancer, and we all got tested for breast cancer. And I'm in the clear. She's at high risk. That happened over the summer. I think her drinking has gotten more out of control in the time that she's been coping with that information. It was already bad, but it seems like she went off the deep end. I empathize with her a lot, but she has done some messed up things to other family members, and this, out of all of them, this is the worst thing she's ever done. I genuinely do not believe she understands what her impulsive decision could have caused with the wrong social worker. What she did is scary and a really big betrayal in putting all 3 of my kids at risk. Quick small update after 3 days. My brother wants to coordinate lunch where we sit down with her to discuss this. He doesn't think me texting her is a good idea, so that may happen, but I don't even know if I can look her in the eye right now. I intend to bring up the drinking issue and concerns for her mental health during this conversation, but also try to get to the truth. We'll have one final update after this with more answers. Thank you, everyone. Final update after 5 days, after 2 from the last post, January 29th, 2025. My sister, 32 female, called CPS my husband and I. Now that the case is closed, I have no idea how to confront her. She ended up reaching out to me and telling me how much she loved me. I responded saying that I had a question to ask and I needed her to be honest with me. She called me immediately. She opened with saying, I think you already know the answer if you're asking this question, so yes, it was me. I followed up with, do you realize what could have happened to my kids? To me and my husband? Do you realize how bad the outcome of this could have been? She began to rant and yell. She said me and my husband don't deserve to be parents, that I obviously don't care about my kids because I haven't even brought them up, which I literally opened with, do you realize what could have happened to my kids? Literally my first question. I think she was drunk again during this call. She just kept yelling and ranting and I couldn't get a word in. I kept asking if I could speak and she wouldn't stop going off. The only words out of my mouth she heard were, you realize we're going to be taking a very long break from you, right? And her response was, I'm sure you will, and I don't care. Then resumed her ranting. So I calmly told her, if she was not going to let me speak, I was going to hang up. At this point, her ranting was incoherent, something about how she cares more about my kids than anyone. Obviously not if you think what you did was okay and think that showing my kids you care about them means putting them at risk and ensuring that they are also losing a family member as a result of her actions, then sure, I guess that's caring. I once again calmly stated that I was going to hang up if she wouldn't let me speak. Unfortunately, that's where this phone call ended. I hung up and blocked her immediately and then called our father. I told him the way she was behaving on the phone sounded like she was incredibly unstable and either drunk, having a manic episode, or both, and that he should call her just to try to calm her down and get through to her. It sounds like he was going to immediately though, I don't know. I am devastated and still reeling from this. I know it was her, but I really wanted the slim chance it wasn't to be true. Even if I knew it was impossible that it wasn't, hearing her say it sent chills down my spine. She said it so indignantly, and like she was proud of her actions, and then devolved into unhinged ranting. Last night, I officially lost my sister. I'll be going no contact from here on out, but my heart is broken. My dad clearly didn't want to believe it was her either because I heard his tone change instantly when I said she had admitted it. My dad sounded like he was on the verge of tears, and quite frankly, I don't blame him. She just caused a massive rift in our family. I didn't even get to bring up the accusations. I really would have loved to ask her where the hell she came up with the idea that we're starving our kids and have no food in the house. She's never left our house hungry, and our kids have never gone hungry. I would have loved an answer to that, but never got a word in once she was going off. I also would have loved to ask her about the drunken anger issues thing because it was clear and on display on the phone last night. She is the one drunk and angry, not my husband. Of course, I would have loved to make that keen observation, but again, I never got to speak once she was going. This is my final update. I have no idea how I feel today besides heartbroken and numb. I want to thank everyone who commented with words of support and advice. It meant a lot to me and really helped inform how I was going to handle with moving forward. I wish I had been wrong, but I wasn't. I'm worried because of her reaction on the phone last night she might retaliate. I have no idea if she will. I hope speaking to my dad maybe helped. I'm a little on edge today and sad, but just hoping to move forward from this in peace. Comments. Kaniksu. Of course, I don't know your family or the situation in full, but I imagine this feels like a betrayal in some ways. Did you get her admission on recording and/or do you have record of it? I know some states have laws allowing false reports of child abuse to be prosecuted if they were made with provable malice. OP responds, I did. Thank God you can record iPhone phone calls. I'm not sure if it's admissible in court though. Washington has very strict rules on recordings being used in legal action when the recording was taken without the other party's knowledge. This definitely feels like a betrayal. She sees my kids maybe 3 to 4 times a year and is simply not around enough to even make accusations like this or have enough information about our daily lives to have any room to speak. She does not understand how serious this is. User WinterAd5922 comments, Info, have you called your sister's fiancé to see what's going on? OP responds, No, I received confirmation from my sister herself. She is now blocked and I won't be calling her fiancé. I'm unfortunately also running into the issue of certain family members still wanting me to invite her to gatherings and they don't agree with what she did, but she's still my sister. And I should move on, which is not happening anytime soon. That CPS report seems to be filled with just so much projection and just personal vendetta. A vindictive little creature, ain't she? Also, I really do wonder how the other family members that are saying, well, you should just forgive her because she's your sister. I wonder how they would feel if she, did something to them and wronged them. Well, you should forgive her. So what if she inverted your knees with an aluminum bat? She's family. You should forgive her. A false CPS call out of spite is an insane thing to do. You don't deserve the kids. I love them more. So I'm going to call CPS and potentially ruin their lives because I'm angry. I'm sorry. I'm going to be 100% real here. If adoption for some reason isn't an option for you and you don't feel like you'd connect with an adopted child and your boyfriend's infertile and the stress of not having the big family you wanted is causing you to pull this kind of bullshit with your family, maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't be with that boyfriend then. Because it seems like that relationship is doomed to fail because of the strain of you not being able to have kids. Just my personal opinion though, I might be 100% off base. But seriously, there seems to be a lot of resentment here that she is just holding on to, and it's swinging out, and it's turning from her being a health nut to downing 18 beers in a single setting. Good lord. This post was collected by Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, "Satan is not a pogo stick." The original OP is Gertie, posted to r/relationships August 6th, 2019. My 30 female husband, 32 male, impulse bought a dog. Together 6 years, married for 3. We so far have very rarely had communication issues. Before we got married, we went to a counselor who helped us a lot. Not because we were having issues, but to make sure we were going to be able to avoid these issues. Both of us are child-free and have been talking about getting a dog. I grew up with them, but we travel a lot, so having one has not really been in the cards. He recently took a job where we won't be able to do as much traveling for about a year. Recently, he's been very excited because he feels he deserves a dog. He works away from home, and I work from home. Like I said, I grew up with dogs. I do miss having one, but there are dogs who would do great with our lifestyle and dogs who wouldn't. We agreed on getting a trainer if we had any issues we can't fix on our own. I'm very health conscious, which extends to dogs. There are certain breeds I would never own because they have so many health issues. The other day, he came home with a bulldog puppy. This is a breed on my absolutely not list. He's about 6 months old, and he got him from a family who couldn't keep him. He already has breathing issues, and he snores all day and all night. He'll need a soft palate surgery, and he'll need his nostrils enlarged. He can't run. He'll need patella surgery. Like I said, he's only 6 months old. I was so frustrated. We've had the dog for about 4 weeks, and he doesn't want to walk the dog much. He won't clean up after it. All he wants to do is take him to the dog park and pet store. He loves when people gush over how cute he is when he snorts. The dog, not my husband. We had a very big argument over the dog. He wants to let him sleep in bed with us, but I told him I would be sleeping in another room. He didn't care, and the dog has been sleeping in our bed for the past 3 nights while I have been in the guest room. During the day, he's quiet. He's a good puppy for sure. He doesn't destroy toys, and he's happy as a clam to sleep next to me all day while I work. The snoring doesn't bother me as much, but knowing he snores because he has that much trouble breathing makes me feel so bad. But I'm upset with my husband for getting a dog with so many health issues. I do not know how to address the situation without letting my temper get away from me. Too long didn't read. My husband brought home an impulse-purchased puppy with numerous health issues he won't care for, and it has taken over our bed. Update, August 30th, 2019, 24 days later. Thank you all for the thorough responses. I read every comment you guys sent. A few months ago, I read a post where a woman sat down with her husband and outlined everything she takes care of at home in a list format, like kitchen, trash, dishes, wipe counters down, etc. That way of communicating really stuck with me, and when we went to see our therapist, I used the same format to express how much I do for the dog. My husband told me that owning a dog was a joint effort. Since I'm home all day, it shouldn't be a problem. Which is when I realized that has been his excuse for everything. Cooking, chores, cleaning. I'm not sure how I became blind to it. I don't know when I started bending over backwards to accommodate him. We used to be a solid couple who helped each other out. I remember when I was still in school, he'd come over to my apartment and clean the whole thing for me during finals, or he took care of my elderly cat when I was away for a week and a half. He used to help me dry the dishes, and it was always fun. We used to have so much fun and laughing all the time. At some point, it all stopped. I started crying right in the middle of a sentence, and he got concerned. I'm not a crier. The only time he's ever seen me cry was when I had to put down my beloved cat a few years ago, but he held me for the first time in what felt like months, and we had a serious heart-to-heart about how he made me feel. Not only with the dog, but how stressed I've been with my job, how lonely I am. I don't feel important, and now we don't feel like a team anymore. That I'm worried about us. I guess it clicked for him, because he really stepped up taking care of the dog. He started going into work earlier so he can come home early and hang out and make me dinner. It happened slowly over the course of the last few weeks, and the routine suits us a lot better. We hired a trainer to make sure we can understand the dog's boundaries together, and the dog sleeps in a dog bed. Our bedroom life has slowly gotten back to where it was when we got married. We're watching our favorite shows again and going out more. I've been putting my foot down more about my feelings, and he's been receptive. We are still going to therapy for now. As for the dog, we're going to keep him. Is he a no-list dog? Yes. But is he a good puppy with a big heart? Yes. We have the money to afford him, and he took off after training. It's nice having a dog again. Too long didn't read. Husband and I went to therapy. We talked through our problems. We're giving our marriage the time and attention it needs to mend. We're keeping the dog. As a general rule of thumb, don't surprise your partner out of the blue with a pet. That's not normally a good idea. Thankfully, in this case, though, we had kind of a Hallmark movie style where it's like the dog for Christmas and the dog mends a slowly fading relationship and makes it so that way they actually communicate more and are happy and, all that kind of stuff. And they're growing closer together and actually prioritizing each other in the relationship. Specifically the husband now prioritizing the wife, but yeah. Bulldogs are also notoriously just a heavily inbred breed that have just gone straight to hell. I grew up with bulldogs. They are definitely an interesting little creature. That's for sure. There is actually a weird underlying benefit where if this family hadn't gotten the dog would have probably lived its life with those issues because, they had the financial ability to take care of him. I actually, just as a side note, despise a lot of the show dog industry because they prioritize recessive genes over dominant genes. And the best way to get recessive genes over and over again is inbreeding. It's incredibly frustrating to me. That's also why I like Scottish Folds as cats, because the ears are actually a dominant trait. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget the Oz Cup is on sale until March 9th, so grab it while you can and use code Oz at checkout. Every purchase made supports the channel directly. They also sell non-caffeinated stuff and even sleeping formulas, which are actually really good and have helped me kind of get my sleep schedule put back together. And with all that, I'll be seeing you all tomorrow.